Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm gonna answer a pretty frequently asked question because if you're anything like this guy, Austin, why in the world do you stick weld everything? You're curious why I stick weld a lot of things versus using MIG, flux, gasless flux, etc. And I totally understand. Very valid question. And that's why I'm making this video. But first, if you're new here, welcome to the channel. My name's Austin Ross. I've been a welder for about 15 years, mostly stick welding, although I do have experience with MIG and a little bit of TIG. Here on this channel, I just share tips and tricks for rig welders, mobile welding mostly, but here lately I've just been sharing the projects that I do and anything that I learn along the way. So it all started about 15 years ago or so. I went to Votech my junior and senior year of high school for welding. They taught us stick, MIG, flux, TIG. I think we even touched on spray arc. So we learned a variety of different types of welding. I'm not sure that we touched on gasless flux. All that to say is, in my world, anything mobile, you mostly just use a stick welder. That's just how it is, right? You don't have to worry about the wind blowing your gas away, causing porosity in your weld. This YouTube channel has taught me a lot. That's one of the reasons I love YouTube, because whenever I share what I do, I get comments like, hey, why don't you use MIG, or why don't you use this, you know? And it just really opens my mind to like how different other people may see the welding industry, or the way they learned, or this, that, and the other. So I just love it. Back on track here. In my world, to mobile weld, which is what I wanted to do, stick welding was the option. It still is, I would say, but there are other options. Right after high school and right after welding school, that's all in the same time frame there, I got a job as a welder in a fab shop, if you will, and the primary welding process that we used was MIG. I worked there for about 3 years, learned all kinds of fabrication skills, done a little bit of TIG and a little bit of stick, but mostly MIG. While I was working there, I quickly learned that I did not want to work in a shop all day, every day. I craved being outside. So I bought me a truck. I actually already had a 1-ton that I bought before I graduated high school, which is the 95. If you don't follow along, the 95 is my first welding truck, still got it. But while I was working at that shop, I also took out a loan for my first SA200, built a little bed for my 95, put my welding machine on it. In other words, I started building a welding truck because I knew that I wanted to do some type of mobile welding. Outside, in the sunshine, in the weather, the whole nine. I just knew I didn't want to be in that shop all day, every day. A little bit of shop work is good from time to time, bad weather days, etc., but just not every day. So that's where it all started, was my desire to weld outside, and my 18-year-old self didn't know much else than the simple fact that I needed an engine-driven welding machine to put on a 1-ton so I could be mobile. So I worked at that shop for 3 years total, quit pretty much out of nowhere because I was literally getting tired of going to the same place every day. Great job, learned a lot. It was custom fabrication. I started to learn how to run a brake press. I could have went on to learn how to run a burn table. Fantastic place to work. Nothing wrong with it at all. It just wasn't my personal desire. I had to get outside. I knew I wanted to do something else. So I just quit. Right after I quit, because of that shop job, one of the customers came in needing some fence built, and a couple weeks later, I was able to go start building some fence for this customer with my mobile welding rig. It was awesome. I loved it. Okay, Austin, why are you telling us your life story, man? We want to know why you stick weld everything. Get to the point, would you? Okay, I am. I'm getting to the point. The fence building went on for about 2 or 3 months, and then I landed a job using my welding truck full-time as in 50, 60 hours a week versus who knows what I was working building fence, you know, just on my terms. I was 20, 21 years old, doing whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted. So it was probably a little more flexible, therefore the money probably wasn't as good as to where the drilling rig job, I was using my welding truck, making $50, $55 an hour back then for my truck, working 50, 60 hours a week. But more importantly, the things I learned welding on drilling rigs, as far as using a stick welder and using a torch, was literally priceless. I absolutely loved that job. Daggum, dude. Daggum airplane. Shoot. Daggum airplane. Shoot. Doesn't he know I'm trying to film? I will eternally be thankful for all those guys that worked for that same drilling rig company that I was working for, because they taught me all kinds of stuff. Super thankful for all that information. So if you're watching, thank you. It was so neat learning how to make a clean cut with a torch. That was one of the things that I remember so vividly, and why I've shared it on this channel so much, because that's one of the most frustrating parts. If you've ever ran a torch or worked on a farm or worked in a shop, in my case, that shop that I worked at had a torch, but the tip was never clean. But we didn't use it that often. We had a plasma cutter if we wanted to make a clean cut. So I just didn't get to learn that aspect of welding. And so whenever I learned that, I was pretty well hooked from then. Like, I love stick welding and I love running a torch, and you can do pretty much anything you need to do. Some may argue that it's obsolete and it's out of date on certain things, and for certain things I would say so, as far as efficiency reasons. But as far as a craftsman learning how to dial in a torch and learning how to dial in a weld machine, it's just the best. But anyway, back on track. Worked at the drill and rig company for about 6 months, I think. I'd always wanted to pipeline. I was always interested in pipeline work. I've got a brother that's 2 years older than me. He's a pipeline welder also. Once he graduated high school, he pretty well lived on the road up until a couple years ago. He'd done a little bit of drill and rigs like myself. He quickly got into refinery work, and then he got into pipeline work. All stick welding, to my knowledge, for the most part. And as I was working at that shop, he was always trying to get me to come be his helper, but I never would leave that job because I would have had to give a 2-week notice, and with pipeline work, you don't usually get 2 weeks notice. You usually got to be there a little sooner than 2 weeks. So it never did pan out to go be my brother's helper. But I was fortunate to have an opportunity through someone else that actually went to Votech with my brother to get on a pipeline job. I was working for the rig yard. That buddy of mine called me and asked if I wanted to take a test a couple hours from the house. I said yes, and pretty well the rest is history whenever it comes to pipeline work. That was my first pipe test, and I just fell in love, you know. For me, it was like a feeling of importance that I needed, I guess you could say. The drill and rig was satisfying, like, financially, but I didn't feel like I was being challenged enough, I guess. And so when I had the opportunity to pipeline, that challenge of going away from the house and having to pass a test and having to pass x-ray every day, that really pushed me to go towards that for whatever reason. And so there again, I quit that job. They had plenty of work, but I quit to go take this opportunity. History as in, that's what I did for the next about 8 years, was pipeline weld. Hey man, enough of the life story. Get to the point already, would you? Yo bro, I'm getting there. Calm down. This is all part of the point. It's part of the story. I'm getting there. Once I started pipeline welding and being around other welders like myself that challenged themselves, that wanted to make better welds, that wanted to make every weld clean, that tried to make every weld prettier, the next one prettier than the last. Once I got around that challenged me because I wanted to get better. That's one of the reasons I think it was addicting, pipeline welding, you know. There's a lot of different reasons. I enjoy going to new places. I enjoy meeting new people. I enjoy the risk of driving 20 hours away and taking a test, the risk of busting x-ray, like I enjoy that. But I also just wanted to get better at stick welding. The challenge is never ending. I pipeline welded for 8 years, but I felt like I had just gotten started. Little did I know, just by pipelining and stick welding every day, I was getting better. I didn't realize it because in my head I was always shooting for better. But whenever we came home and I started welding on fence and whatnot around here, I realized little things in my stick welding and my torch cutting abilities that I was getting really more efficient. I didn't notice big things. Like, I noticed my welds. I noticed it was easier to make a more uniform weld, but I noticed little details like the way I carried myself, the way I knelt down to make the next weld, the way I put a rod in my stinger, just the efficiency and all the little things. Those of you that have pipelined for a long time, you know what I'm talking about. Me and my brother were on a job in North Dakota one time. I believe it was 16-inch quarter wall, and they were allowing us to cap the welds by yourself versus brother-in-lawing it. And there was this old welder, I don't remember if he was leading the firing line or not, but he was on the firing line with us, me, my brother, and maybe one other welder. This old man, if I remember right, was 74 years old at the time, smoked cigarettes, skinny as can be, didn't move fast at all. But you know what? He literally always beat me and my brother on his weld. It wasn't a race to him. It wasn't like we weren't racing, you know, but just on pipeline, if depending on the job you're on, if you all start at the same time, you can tell who gets done faster, because the one that's done is sitting there leaning up against their truck waiting on the other welders to get done and waiting on more welds to get ready to cap in front of them. And me and my brother, we were trying to cap our weld, trying to be faster than this old man, and no matter what we did, he always beat us on his weld. We was racking our brains trying to think and understand how in the world, what's he doing? It frustrated my brother more than me. I was like, man, I'm just here trying, you know what I mean? Like, it'd be cool to beat him, but like, I ain't got a chance. I didn't even try. I was just enjoying it, you know. But it was bothering my brother because, you know, he had more pipeline experience than me, and it was just bothering him because he was like, man, I think his has got more, you know, his weld has got more weld in it, you know, because the guys that are on the firing line sometimes have to put a filler pass in also. It may just have a bead and a hot pass in it. And in this case, it was 250 wall, so it probably didn't need a filler, or maybe needed some on the side a little bit. But my brother was like, man, this guy has got to, he's cheating somehow, you know. He's capping his weld faster than we are, and I don't understand how. My brother was studying what he was doing. And at the end of the day, he didn't find out anything other than this little thing right here, which is every move that old man made was productive. There was no move that was wasted, efficient. He was a very slick old man. And I tell that story to say, you know, I didn't think I was getting any quicker whenever I was pipeline welding, but whenever I come home and started welding on fence, I started realizing little things that I was doing that just made me more efficient. And it's the neatest thing in the world. I love it. Stick welding's addicting is what I'm getting at. So the reason I stick weld everything, or a lot of things on this YouTube channel, is because of pipeline. Blame it on my pipeline experience. I absolutely love it. Okay, so what? You're not pipelining. There's other ways. There's more efficient ways, Austin. It's the 20th century. We still gotta know. Why are you stick welding everything? We gotta know more. Tell us more. Okay. Truth be told, on a serious note, I'm doing it because I love it, but I'm doing it for you. I'm doing it for you. I'm doing it for all of you watching this YouTube video. The viewers of YouTube. Education. That's why, okay? Education. To prove to you that there is always room for improvement. Think of it like this. What's difficult for you may not be difficult for me, but that's only because of my history, my stick welding experience. It's not as difficult for me to weld this 14 gauge pipe together as it may be for you. So for you, and for a company that's mass producing stuff, yes, MIG is the better option, is the more wise decision. But for me personally, and for the business model that we got going on, it doesn't make sense for me to invest in different things because of the type of work that I do. I'm getting a little off track. Yes, I'm doing it to show that there's always room for improvement, but on a personal, like kind of serious note here, me and my wife are prioritizing the online business, the education business, the courses that we're building. We've got the pipe fence course, the quick rig course. All of our focus, if you will, and our investment strategies are focused on the education, not so much focused on the service base. That's why I've only got part-time help Dakota right now. Like if I was looking to be quicker and more efficient and all this stuff, and we wanted to invest in the service base, we would do things, you know, like experiment with flux core out on the job, and you know, push on getting a more certain type of job to try to streamline things. But that's just not our focus right now. So just a little bit of like transparency and like heart-to-heart talk here. That's why I stick weld things a lot, because of my past experience and because of us personally, as me and my wife, and as our business. Our business is kind of dynamic, you know. This YouTube thing's new to me. I mean, it's not new anymore, but it kind of is, because there's territory that we need to get into, which is delegating a lot of work, and that's new to us. So all that to say is we're just learning how to navigate, and we're enjoying the process, and our focus is more on the education and the YouTube and the online stuff than it is on the service base, to simplify it. I hope that makes sense. With all that being said, as you know, I'm a huge advocate for learning, and I hope one day, and I think one day, that most likely I will have a gasless flux, if for nothing else, to experiment with on the YouTube channel so we can all learn from it. So just because I stick weld something does not mean that that is the best process for that said job. It's just because that's what I have, that's what I enjoy, and we essentially haven't prioritized money to invest in any other type of welding process. Hope that makes sense. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here. Absolutely, pleasure's all mine. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Hope you learned something. If you're interested in our online courses, you can find them at arosswelding.school. If you're interested in our main website where our store is, you can find it at arosswelding.com. Hope you have an awesome weekend, and remember, learn something every day.